Welcome back to the 21 Convention 2018 of Orlando, Florida. Our next speaker is a former heavyweight boxer, retired military, and a physicist with a BA, recent graduate. He's also a blogger at edlatimore.com. Without further ado, please help me welcome to the stage, Ed Latimore.
So good morning to everyone, and I hope you got your black coffee, very black. It's the only way I drink it. Everybody who follows me on Twitter knows I got this running series of coffee so black jokes. And it'd be weird if you came up and I was drinking coffee with cream. That's why I say the best part about these kind of things is that you get to see the authentic person behind the internet persona. So I'm not a phony. I'm drinking black coffee like the rest of you. So my speech today, my presentation today, as you can see, titled, Being Red Pill in a Blue Pill World, How to Keep Your Mind and Soul in the Madness. When I was thinking about what I was going to say to everyone, I wanted to draw on something personal to me because I'm a big believer that if you're going to do anything involving putting yourself out there, whether it be content or even working, that you should come from a position of experience and not just theory. And so for me, everyone's got their event that makes them red pilled. My event was at 23. I went through a harsh breakup and started dating a girl who was seeing a few other guys. And long story short, she tricked me and made me think that I had a child on the way that was not mine. And eventually I learned it was not the other guys either who we thought it was another guy. So we go through this. I'm like, man, how did this happen? I thought I was a savvy guy, but turns out, man, your ego can be incredibly blinding. So I went through this phase, and when I was 23, mostly 22, 23, 24, where I was really, I was a voracious consumer of red pill content and really trying to figure out how to make sure I would never be in a position to accept such meager offerings in my life in terms of women ever again. What you learn, though, is not everyone is interested in the truth. Not everyone's interested in knowing how things work. They just want things to work out, hopefully magically, and if it's not, this life wasn't just for them. And when you talk to those people, some of them are going to be your friends, your family. In fact, most of them are going to be. Very few of us, and that's why we're all here from all around the world, very few of us got so lucky that we were surrounded by a bunch of like-minded red pill guys who were in on the truth and knew what the game was all about. So I had to figure out how to exist amongst these people, and I failed miserably in many ways. And today I'm going to talk about not only how I failed, but how I want some of you who are in various stages of swallowing this pill, how you can go on and not be lonely because, like Socrates was saying in his speech before, loneliness is a big deal. And we may not be birds of the same feather, but we can definitely flock together. And if we don't, we're going to fall. So let's get on with it. Quick review for the older guys who know this, or the veterans and some of the new guys. What's the blue pill and what is the red pill? I'm one of those people, I know there's some debate about this, but my stance is that you can be red pilled about anything. It doesn't just apply to women. However, today we're going to be talking about it in the context of relationships. But you can be red pill about politics, about nutrition, all of these things. But what is blue pill? Molding your life to the expectations of society, regardless of what your desires are. Many of us are just going along to get along. We're not going along to make ourselves happy. Believe in everything you're told about how things are without questioning how they work. It's like Santa Claus, man. You tell a kid for so long that Santa exists, and then the kid's going to get mad at you one day when you go, you know what? Those presents didn't just fall down the chimney. And a lot of people, anyhow, not us in this room, hopefully, a lot of people still believe in Santa. And that is believing how everything they're told, as opposed to figuring out, yo, man, we got to go put this work in and buy these presents, And operating from a state of fear, conservation, and scarcity. This is a big one because in order to keep you believing these things, there has to be something that you're afraid of running towards. There has to be some risk you're afraid to take. The payoff has to seem not worth it. And the way, this is maintained is, you pick a side and you got to be on that side rather than think for yourself. And your tribe will protect you even if you don't agree with that tribe, or you're not even naturally part of that tribe. It's just tribe you got pulled into. Many of us are like that in terms of the religion that we were given, and religion is a very good thing. But many of us are not allowed to question the things that go on for fear of looking like a traitor. Many of us are not allowed to question, or we feel weird questioning nutritional advice given to us by the masses, the food pyramid, and many of our nutritional options that have resulted in a 70% obesity rate in this country. We question that, and people look at us like we're crazy. But we're not questioning it. We're afraid to stand out. We're afraid to be pushed aside. We're afraid to have everyone look at us. It's like that saying, you can be the hammer or the nail. Well, many of us feel like we're the nail and we don't want to stick out. We just want to get hit back down as soon as we can, or we prefer it happens that way, so we don't have to deal with more conflict from outside. But what is the red pill? Let's get to the positive stuff. Going after what you want and optimizing your life regardless of what society says. This to me is the number one thing. Some of us want a bunch of girls. Some of us want a relationship. Some of us want to live in the forest. Some of us want to live in the city. Doesn't matter, but it's going after what you want. Some of the biggest arguments I have with people is that I have a very clear, and I've always had a very clear idea what I want out of life. And some of it agrees with what everyone wants. Some of it does not. But what's important is it's mine. And I see the reaction when I stand up for, what I think I want out of life. So I know that many people, just based on some of the conversations I had last night, I know that many people have the exact same experience. Forming opinions based on real world experience and not socially induced indoctrination, also known as bro science. If you I'm a big fan of bro science personally, and this is from a guy, who has a degree in physics. I 100% believe that, it doesn't have to be right to be correct, whatever works for you is what works for you, and if it brings you happiness and it does not destroy other people, then you're doing all right. And operating from a state of courage, fulfillment, and abundance, and this one should be clear. If you believe that it's possible to do a thing, then you can go out and do that thing. And that sounds, like some kind of motivational hoorah, whatever. But I'll never forget, I was looking at some video of some guy going around picking up girls on the beach. And it was one of those YouTube videos, they say some are staged, some are not. Who knows, right? Point is, my buddy and I were looking at these videos and we said, that looks so cool. And then another friend of ours was like, man, that's obviously fake. You can't do that. And I said, wow. And I didn't argue with my friend, but at this point I had learned enough, some of the things that I'm going to talk about in this presentation. I had enough experience with those things, so I was like, you know what? I'm just going to look at you and wonder why you don't think that's possible. But I'm not going to argue. So what happens when you swallow the red pill? Some of you are familiar with these steps, but if not, here's our review. It's not this way. You don't think the world works that way. You're in the denial stage. Everyone is in denial at the beginning. Unless, once again, you were fortunate enough to come up and know this how the world is. I hate that it's this way. Anger. And we all get so mad at how things really are. No one just jumps from, all right, Santa isn't real, and they just accept it. Nah, man, kids throw tantrums, man. That's just what happens. And many of us are kids in this way. Some of it's this way, but not all. Then you bargain. You try to eat some of it, throw the rest of it back up. But you can't go back to fairy tale land. I guess I'm not too hip on the particular lingo, or at least what constitutes this phrase, but I suppose this is what some people refer to as purple pill, where you have swallowed this thing and you're like, oh God, it tastes horrible, and you're trying to throw it back up and it comes back up purple, and it's like, hey. Holy shit, it really is this way. Depression. Once you take in that people are going to be a certain way, and it just can't go that way. We talk about hypergamy, and that concept really bothers a lot of people. But who it bothers more than guys who reject it, or guys who have accepted it and they realize that it places the burden of performance on them. They cannot just have it the way they want it to be. You have to work to be a certain way. As I always say, nature does not care about your feelings. Nature is not a social justice warrior. Nature only cares if you can fight and if you can reproduce. I usually say another word that begins with F, but there's some editing up here. And the last part, it's all true. Acceptance. Once we reach this point, or, you're somewhere along the way, you got to make a choice. You're going to go, okay, well, what's next? Everyone has a different response to it. Regardless whether you're MGTOW or you're PUA or you want to build a trad life or whatever, the point is you come to that conclusion only after you've absorbed all of this. That doesn't mean your conclusion is right or wrong, but your process that you've arrived at it is correct. You have seen that the world is in desperate need of something, some different response, some different way of living, and you want to go on about that. So how do you continue? I went and found this quote. I thought it was really cool. If you belong to the world, it would love you as its own. As it is, you do not belong to the world, but I have chosen you out of the world. This is why the world hates you. Amen. John 15:19. That quote speaks to us all in here. I know that from my experience. I know that from talking to many of you last night. One of the most difficult things to be is to be aware of the truth, especially when everyone else is operating from a position of falsehood, a position of, I want this to feel good, not I want to do what is best. And very often those two things do not coexist. They are mutually exclusive. So how do you continue once you have decided to no longer be part of the world? Step one. These are just some things I learned that you're going to see now. You got to let the sleeping dogs lie. That quote from The Matrix, we never free a mind once it's reached a certain age. It's dangerous. The mind has trouble letting go. I was talking to someone last night at 53 years old. 53 years old, and he was saying he was getting red. And I was like, wow, man, that's really impressive, because most people, that long, they're not going to touch it. Is you being someone who is touching it? You have to remember, you don't get any points for making other people see that you've done this. And many people are going to resist your influence, your ability to try and wake them up, because to you, how they're living is incorrect, or at least it's not optimal. When you try to point that out to them, they're going to be like, well, what do you know? To them, they think they're happy. They have everything they want. Security is unbelievably seductive, and it's way more inviting than freedom. And freedom is really what the red pill gives us. This red pill lens lets us see reality for what it really is. And when people don't want to do that, if you want to continue to be around them, you have to just let them be. That's really what the crux of everything you want to say afterwards comes back to. You have to let them be them. You got to let people do themselves, as they say, or as we say, I'm going to do me, right? The game is to be sold, not to be told. Man, I love that quote so much. I don't know if it's just the rap fan in me, or because it works so well. No one can be told what the Matrix is. You have to see it for yourself. I have a theory. I think the better your life is, the less hardship you have to face growing up, the more difficult it's going to be for you to accept anything related to the red pill. I think when we touch some tragedy, when we have an event that lets us go, holy hell, how did this happen? For me, it was that event with the girl and the baby. Maybe for somebody, it's finding out their wife is being not faithful to an extreme amount. But we have these events that wake us up. And now that we've touched it, we can't unknow it. We can't unexperience it. You know, we really wish we could. Sometimes I like to believe that the reason I didn't get presents when I was a kid is because Santa said, yo, I'm not messing with your black ass this year. When in reality it was, yo, we didn't have nearly enough money. It was food or it was Christmas presents. That's the reality. We can't believe in that. So you have to remember, if you're going to talk to your friends about this stuff, and the people close to you, gauge what they've experienced. See if they are blissfully happy, or I'll say blissfully ignorant, really, then let them be. Let them be, because they're providing you companionship and friendship, and they are alleviating any type of loneliness you may face. But if you got somebody who's dealing with something rough and the world's kind of like shaking them up, and it's like, this isn't how it is. Well, maybe they'll listen to you. The Hawthorne Effect is your worst enemy. If you tell the rats that they're in the maze, they'll stop searching for cheese just to prove a point. Now, I don't know how many people here are familiar with the Hawthorne Effect. It's one of my favorite things. It boils down to this. If you tell people that you are searching, or if you tell people that you're watching for a certain behavior, they'll do one of two things. They'll either behave in that way because of some kind of incentive, or they will not behave in that way because there is some kind of penalty, or they just want to ruin your day and your experiment. The point is, you won't get the natural data that you need to draw the conclusion about reality, because we talk about this in terms of looking at natural experiments and seeing how people respond in the environment, right? So what does this have to do with forming better connections with people as a red pill person in a blue pill world? What's the first rule of Fight Club? Don't talk about Fight Club, right? No, I mean, I don't know why they said that. I mean, I don't know. Okay, because I think about it, I would want to talk about Fight Club, but I like to apply this to everything else, particularly with girls. The first thing many guys want to do, especially the young ones, is they want to talk about how they're using some game, man. I mean, I think one of the biggest search terms are these field reports and these lay reports, right? And that's all good, man. Drop that knowledge so the rest of us can learn. But when you're talking to people who you're perhaps using it on, people you're reading, not just for a sexual encounter, but if you are understanding, your friends' motivations that they may not be aware of, and you're trying to tell them about it, look, they are going to go out of their way to spite you. You're going to ruin a friendship. You're going to ruin a potential relationship just so they can say, that game stuff doesn't work. Red pill is nonsense. Look, I showed you. And if you had just shut your mouth and just got to work, you would have been all right. But now you told them. Now you've ruined potential relationships and probably hurt current ones. If you can't tell, I'm really big on keeping the people close to you who you've had your whole life. You do build and reach out and make new friends. All of you are my friends now, hopefully. But you don't want to discard old people as well, because there's no reason to if you don't have to. Healthy cynicism beats remorseful anger. You will fall to ruin because you believe that exceptions to the rule make the new rules. Now, we talk about this, not all X are like that. The mistaken belief that you can name someone here because the average doesn't exist. You can name someone at the far end because the average doesn't exist. And that's how we usually use that when we talk about the female nature and things like that. Oh, most women behave this way. Therefore, the fact that girl isn't behaving that way, oh, you just wait, right? And And there's two implications to this. One is the most common one, which is you need to know what you're dealing with, and you need to sit back. You're not going to fall into traps that many men commonly fall into. And you won't fall into those traps because you are awake and you're hip to the game, you just swallowed the red pill and everything. Right? But then there's the other implication that many people don't like to talk about. Tell you a story. I've been with the same girl now for like 6 years. And it was a great time, man. I'm a very happy guy. But that first year, I said to her, I still say to her jokingly, I said, either you are the greatest actress in the world, and you're going to get the Academy Award again, or you are a rare human being. I'm going to just keep riding this out in the sea. And I just sat back and I was looking for all the red flags. I had her on Facebook, not a bunch of random dudes liking her pictures and putting heart faces and things like that. Okay, we're good. Low social media profile on Instagram. Okay, we're good. Came from a house with your whole family. Okay. Your father wasn't in the picture. Wait, what? Oh, he died when you were a kid. When did he die? You know, I didn't say that. The point is that if you get I was so used to dealing with this part that I had no idea how to deal with someone who actually did exist at this part. And we usually think about it in the reverse. And I'm really happy that she was patient with my craziness. You know, this isn't some love letter or whatever. I'm just making a point. And that point is that had I believed that all women are exactly like that, I would not be open to any that are. And I did believe that. But you have to get some experience. You have to remember that you're going to encounter some exceptional individuals. Now remember, by definition, those individuals are rare. They are not the norm. And those are the ones that you need to bring into your world, and bring them into your world slowly, but bring them into your world surely. Avoid I told you so syndrome. You know, and this is a big one for many of us in here. Because what happens when you can see the world unclouded, when the smoke is no longer covering your eyes and you know exactly what's going on? Well, you want to tell your friends. You want to tell them and you want to warn them when they're about to get into a situation. Everyone in here, well, many of us anyhow, have had that friend and we were like, man, I know that your girl is no good. Not only I know she's no good, man, I saw her. Hell, man, she was with me. And he's like, man, you got to get out of here with that, man. And you can keep warning them. And really, you are doing it from the goodness of your heart. That's what's mind-boggling, is that for you are driven by a very pure motivation. You want to look out for your friend, but how does he see it? Well, he sees it as you trying to wake him up, and he ain't ready to wake up. He ain't ready to believe that Santa didn't get a flat tire. He wants to keep believing that Santa said, nah, I'm not delivering to that house this year. And then when things go south, as they often do when you can foresee and predict them correctly, he's going to be in a really bad position. He's going to be hurt. And you have to resist the urge to tell him I told you so. And not even exactly like that, because that is obnoxious and childish to say I told you so. Right? No one does that. But we like to point out, you know, well, I gave you these warning signs and there was this. And remember that time I said that, you know? No, it doesn't do anything but push people away. It doesn't make your life better. It doesn't make their life better. I believe that one of the responsibilities of being red-pilled is that you kind of become a shepherd to those who are not. You know, the people are going to make unbelievably stupid mistakes. And they're going to be mistakes that you foresaw happening, that you warned them about, or you could have warned them about. And maybe you don't because you know they won't listen, or maybe you do and they don't listen anyway. Well, when the mistakes aren't catastrophic, when people don't lose their lives, and when random children don't show up who wouldn't be here otherwise, the best thing you can do is be a good friend. You can be a supportive friend. You can understand, you have to understand that just because you woke up doesn't mean everyone else is going to move to the same alarm clock. It's not going to happen. But be patient, and maybe it will one day. And if it doesn't, well, you got a good friend when you need to step away from all this. By the way, I wanna when I say all this, what I mean is, you know, we know what it's like already. We know the red pill universe. We know the truth. But goodness gracious, imagine if everything you consumed was only red pill. How could you stay positive about anything in the world? It's kind of like why I don't follow the news. Anyone who follows me on Twitter knows I'm a big talker about how I do not watch the news. I could not tell you anything that's going on. I know we got some new guy making laws now. That's like and I guess he was a big drinker. That is the extent of my knowledge of current events. You're going to need to step away. You can't go back in permanently, but maybe you want to just go and have a break. And to have a break, to have people that want to have you around, you can't piss them off when you're feeling real red. It's like, come on, man. What are you doing all tender? You already know you're giving them validation, bro. Get out of here. No, you got to let these sleeping dogs lie. You have to let them be that way because you're going to need them one day. And that's a real hard thing to swallow. You're going to need them to keep your sanity. Forgiveness. We forgive them, for they know not what they do. Any rap fans in here knows that voice that I just dropped into. Yeah, somebody was like, yeah, man, yeah. That's from Notorious Thugs, man. That's not the actual quote, but the idea is that I don't think many people hurt you intentionally. I don't think people really think about you at all, to be honest with you. I think what happens is people have their own drives and their own motivation, and every now and then you happen to be in the way. You collateral damage is what most of your grievances are with other people. And you take them personally because, well, you're a person. I mean, what else you want to do? Look, if you run into my car, I mean, I had to replace my car earlier this year. And I was like, man, you ran into me. Meanwhile, he's just a guy trying to go drink on a Cinco de Mayo, man. He's not thinking about me. I just happen to be right in the way, right? And intellectually understanding that is the first step to forgiveness. And there's going to be a lot of forgiveness the more red you get. The hardest part for me in this, aside from forgiving myself, because that was very difficult, is I had to forgive my mother. Because my mother, while she did the best she could, she brought us up in an environment that was not conducive, around people that we should not have been around, and exposed us to things that we should not have been exposed to. And I was fortunate. I am here standing on this stage in front of people, teaching about how I move past it and the tools that I use, and I continue to do that. My sibling is not so fortunate. And for a long time, I was angry. I was very angry. I was angry at her because because when you're angry, right, you can, or with any person who wrongs you, who's close, you can sit there and focus on the good in them and see this as a temporary transgression, a mistake. Or you can focus on the mistake and completely ignore any good that they did for you. I don't think many people weigh those two things out fairly and evenly. And so either, we forgive people who did us really badly, or we hold a grudge against someone who maybe just crossed us the wrong way that day and was the wrong timing. Well, I didn't do that with my mom. I did not take the high road for most of my early 20s. In fact, one day at Thanksgiving, it was the last Thanksgiving I had with her for like 5 years, I said, you know what? Why in the world did you even have us? Like, I thought that. As grateful as I am for life, I said that to her. I said, why did you have us? Because you weren't ready, and all these reasons why, and we were, I say that my mom was a single parent, but I mean, the truth is my dad paid child support and he did expose to stuff. But we didn't have a father in my home. He lived way away, and we seen him like once or twice a year. All right. And I didn't know. I mean, maybe that was the first time I was really getting exposed to the red pill and seeing the real way that things are. But the only way I was able to get past that is I had to intellectually hold my head that she did the best she could. And a lot of the people around you are doing the best they can. When people criticize your new way of seeing the world, of thinking about the world, of interacting with people, they don't hate you. They don't even hate the red pill. They don't even know what the red pill is. You ever try and explain it to somebody who doesn't know? It's like explaining that water is wet. And I'm like, just touch the water, man. You can see it. But like, yeah, but how is it that way? And they don't get it, though. All they see is a few people got drowned. I'm like, come on, man. That's the wrong thing to focus on. But these people, they don't dislike you. They don't hate you. They hate what you have challenged the reality. And because you didn't challenge the reality and end up in prison, obviously you're wrong. The fact that you're a free, happy person means that something has to go. Either their world is wrong or your world is wrong. Instead of understanding that perspective is perspective. So they're not against you. They don't hate you. They don't have anything against anything that we're about. They have a problem with themselves, and your free mind reminds them of that. And you have to not take it personally. I just know that when I'm around certain people I love, people who I wouldn't be here at this moment right now for, who just happen to be extraordinarily blue, right? I understand that certain things they're just not going to get, and it's only going to make us miserable if we discuss it. So instead of thinking about the time where they try to insult me or some of the snide jabs I get on social media when I make a post from people who are my friends, right, that I know in person, I just remember Pimp Jesus and what Pimp Jesus is standing for. He's telling me I got to forgive him. I just got to let it go. And be happy, because once again, those people are going to be there for me when I need some random, tons of stories from my life. That's how I present. One of my friends he tries to bring up politics at every turn, and you guys know I don't talk about politics at all. Like I said, man, we got a new guy, and he drinks a lot of beer, and now he smashes a gavel. It's cool. That's what I know. And he's not that story I told you about the guy when we were watching the videos and watching the guy pick up on the beach. Well, yeah, he was the one in that who said, yo, I don't see how that's impossible, right? We're very opposed on these ideas. But let me tell you something. When I moved back from California to where I live now in Pittsburgh, and I had no place to live. I mean, literally, I had no place to live and no money. He said, why don't you stay at our spot? I'll rent you the room upstairs for $200 a night. Or, I mean, a month, not a night. Woo! He said, I'll rent you a room for $200 a month. And that was incredible, because at that point in time, I was working at T-Mobile and I had some unemployment from California. I was pimping the system. That was still, that was a blessing, man. And if I had instead focused on how he started to view my new views, and we made a clash, I wouldn't have that friend. I wouldn't have that support system. So these people, you love them, but you don't have to, just because you have an ideological difference. This is what it boils down to. You don't have to become enemies, and you certainly don't want to become enemies because you never know when you'll need their help. A simple test. Hey, look more rap lyrics from a black guy. Surprise, surprise. Meek Mill, there's levels to this shit, right? So when I'm gauging when I'm gauging whether I can introduce a concept to a person, I want to see how they deal with something lesser. I want to see how they can swallow a different view of reality on a smaller topic. If I want to talk to a guy about how crazy and ridiculous and pointless I think voting is, I'll tell him sugar is crack. And I'll see how he responds. It's an easy one. Everyone thinks you need a little bit of sugar. Let me see how he goes with this. And we can have a healthy argument on nutrition. No one decides to unfriend their family members because one's a vegetarian and the other's carnivore. I mean, I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but I haven't seen it. The arguments around nutrition don't tend to get as heated. Around politics, people ready to disown the family name because somebody's in office who don't give a damn about you. So I choose smaller things to see how they think. Are they open to freeing their mind at all? Is this even a person I can have a more in-depth conversation with about women or religion or politics? Because those things put you in a position to where you're going to have to alienate someone or shut up and take abuse. And that's either you feeling some kind of revenge, because that's what it comes down to. We want to, and the contempt we feel when we're shut down, we look for ways to strike back. Or the other person feels like, I got you, and now they're going to lord it over your head and bring it up, because people are by and large terrible at suffering a victory. And I say suffering a victory because when you can't handle victory, in many ways it's worse than losing. But these simple tests let you know if you can have a conversation, if you can go deeper, and if you can't, if they're not, and you're not looking for agreement, you're looking for open-mindedness. Because a person can completely oppose you on every point, but if they have good reasoning and they listen to you, then perhaps this is someone you can talk with, make a new friend, maybe not pull out the system, but when you go back into the system, you got your preferred buddy to chill with, How to make friends and influence sheep. I really wanted to put the quotation marks around that, but I'm not that level of narcissist yet. This is a quote from me, from my Twitter. Everyone doesn't emerge from hardship the same way. Some are tougher, some are traumatized, while others are completely broken. Some want to forget, some can forgive, while others burn with hatred, ready for revenge. Similar experiences are no guarantee of similar reactions. That last line is key. Because I know earlier in the presentation I said you want to gauge a person's receptiveness based on what they've experienced. And that's still correct. But you have to remember, for every guy that goes, you know what? All that stuff you were saying was right. I'm going to start learning and we're going to chill, man. You got to break this game down to me. There's another guy that's going to go, you know what? I just messed up this time. I did it wrong. I got to go back and double down on what's going on before. And you're still, and it's almost as if the failure reinforces the behavior that caused the failure in the first place. People aren't learning from what happened. And not only are they not learning, they look at you as still the agent of poor and bitter truth. when in reality you could possibly be their savior. But like experiences are no guarantee of like reactions. But it is a really good place, and I bring this up because negotiation and coercion, that's the soft way, that's the skilled way to change someone's mind, as opposed to brute force and conscription and things of that nature, and bullying. Well, I know several times I've looked at what a person had gone through and I said, how can you still think this way? How can you still do this? How can you be so stupid? I've actually said to people I care about. And that does not do anything for a relationship. That does not do anything to make sure that this is a person, if I'm ever in a bad spot, I can depend on, and vice versa. If they're ever in a bad spot, they can call me up. There's nothing worse than when you have a buddy who you could have helped, who you could have gotten out of a really bad position, and he did not reach out to you because you're always beating down his thoughts, ideas, and actions. Look, it's one thing to offer good advice and to give someone a way to be better. You can't push them through the door, though. You can't make them do it. And when you do push, you're going to get an equal and opposite reaction if they're not ready to go. And maybe your relationship, very often your relationship cannot sustain that. And if you're interested in sustaining the relationship, you just got to let a person have their own method, their own reaction, their own way of doing things if they are not receptive. Embrace that your difference. The worst loneliness is to not be comfortable with yourself. I know sometimes, it's funny, the girl I was talking about, the girlfriend I live with, she's always, she worries. She says, don't hermit. Don't hermit, you can't hermit. I'm like, I know it, man, I survived for 27 years before I met you. Leave me alone, right? But she's got a point, because when you start thinking differently, it's almost this elitist feeling. You're like, I don't want anything to do with those guys. I don't want anything to do with my old friends, because, whether you feel like they're not going to understand you, or you feel like you are so much better now for whatever reason. Because superpowers are kind of like that. And in my opinion, from a sociological standpoint, understanding the red pill and taking it and then enacting it, that is as close to a superpower as it's like pimping, I guess. I don't know. You get in people's minds and you know it's going to happen and you can anticipate and move around it. It's very cool, right? And it's very easy to feel like you're better than other people. It's very easy to feel like they should be begging for your attention. But if you take this approach, if you go this route, if you don't embrace the difference and still try to insulate and still try to integrate yourself with the community, then you're going to find yourself very lonely by attrition, rather than forcing your relationships to deteriorate because of an argument about this or a disagreement about that. You're just going to fade into the dust. People are going to be like, oh man, I ain't seen that in like 3 years. What happened to him? I think he's in prison. Really? Nah, he's alive. We just don't talk to him anymore. We haven't seen him. He doesn't reach out to us. We all know this happens when we get guys. Everyone's got that buddy that got a girl and then poof. I mean, that's it. Poof. Nothing follows after that. He's just gone. You don't want to be that guy. It is now. Everyone needs a period of readjustment. And when I was making this slide and I was thinking about how this applied in my life, I remember, for those of you who don't know, I'm coming up on my 5th year of sobriety. And hey, thanks. When I stopped drinking for the first year. More like the first 2 years, for real. So the first 2 years, I don't think, and I used to spend my friends, I was the guy you called, and I was the guy you wanted to spend time with. Whenever I would still get the messages, and then gradually I would not respond, and then I'm in a group chat, and then I put that on mute, and I walled myself off to the point where I almost committed the ultimate offense. I almost left the fantasy football league, man. Ooh, yeah, some of you were laughing. Serious. But funnily enough, the thing that saved me from doing it was another friend of mine had to step out, and I said, I can't leave these guys short. 2 people, I'll stick around. And then my mindset changed, and I really got back to trying to socialize and go out of my way. Because I've reached a point, and I think we all have to reach this point. That's really the point of my presentation, is we have to reach this point. We have to reach this point where we're very comfortable with who we are without other people being comfortable with who we are. As anyone who has decided to take the red pill, or is affiliated or with someone who has decided to take the red pill, you know very much how hard it is to find like-minded people. But you have to accept it's just the rule of standard deviation and a normal probability distribution. Sorry for the math talk. It just happens that when you get to the 3rd standard deviation, when you become so outstanding and so different, by definition, it's going to be very difficult to find people to fit in. You have to become comfortable with that, but you cannot become a complete loner. We don't want to be lonely. That is the number one thing. That is, and really that's what's been weaponized in the fight to kind of quell the red pill, is these guys are a bunch of lonely losers who hate women or whatever and things like that. And they always focus on I always hear the lonely and the angry part together. And while I understand that they are just painting a battle, painting a picture and a narrative to wage war against, well, it's our job to not make that so easy. And one of the ways to do that is to still blend in, to still be part of the crowd. There's a last part. You have to accept the world as it is. Yes, acceptance is a choice, a hard one most definitely, but a choice nonetheless. I wish I had put who said that, because I know it wasn't me, but it's a cool quote. And I found this picture. This guy's just watching it burn, man. Some guys decide to enjoy the decline. Other guys decide to rebuild with families. Other guys go MGTOW. Some guys get a sex doll. Apparently they opened a brothel up in Europe and it's sold out for 3 weeks on pre-bookings, which means like that's a deliberate decision. Like that's not, man, I was coming back and I was drinking and I decided to try this out. That's like, I am in, I'm committed. Oh yeah. Nah, but no matter what path you take, you know, at the end of the day, people are people. One. The extension of that, or the natural result of that, is that people attempt to create systems and attempt to enact order and control and to gain more power, because power is how you gain influence. 2. 3, the more influence you have, the easier it is for anyone on your team. So everyone on your team fights to gain more influence. 3 and 4, no one fights for a draw. Everyone tries to advance and win at some point. So whenever you hear this whole idea of equal this, equal that, just know that's some blue pill nonsense coming over the radio waves to you. I put that bullet point checklist out there for this slide, though, to let you know that that's just how it's going to be. And the best thing you can do as somebody who is taking this wonderfully tasting pill is you can not piss off the other side. You cannot make yourself a target. Because when you make yourself a target, you're letting everyone know where the battle is. And there's a lot more of them than there are of us. We may be stronger ideologically, and we may be stronger on purpose, and we may have been through more trauma and are battle hardened. But at the end of the day, we are fighting from a position of not weakness, but minority in lower numbers. And you will need these people at the end of the day, because look, not everyone even knows there's a battle. Some people don't even want to be involved in the battle even if they know it is. Some people just want to be your friend, and you want some people to just be your friends. They just want to have a good life. And you don't do yourself any favors when you go out there and when you put so much effort into making someone else live by your standards. That's the issue we have with a lot of the SJW crowd, is that they put so much effort into trying to look, man, I don't care what your gender is, honestly. I really don't. It's never been a concern of me. But the moment you tell me I gotta cooperate with everything that is said or put forth, the moment you tell me I gotta change the words I use and how I write, Microsoft Word actually scolded me for non-gender neutral language the other day. It's crazy, man. But my point is that we don't need to convert people to our cause any more than we want the other people to, we want them to stop trying to convert people, our people, anyone's people to their cause. Just live and be a good example. And your example will draw people in who are ready, and people who aren't, man, look, no skin off your back. I'm always, the most selfish thing you're going to hear me say is, for every guy not awake, it's another person, or that's one less piece of competition, one less piece of awareness, one less any person to occupy the same space that you're trying to occupy. So that's just one way to look at it. I don't necessarily fully agree with that, but however you decide to see something. I think we were talking to Ryan Stone last night, and he said, look, man, if I tell a guy the moon is made of cheese and it makes him work out, then I'm going to tell him the moon is made of cheese, right? Same idea. Whatever works for you, to accept that your world has got to be your world, and you don't want to go out of your way to alienate and make these people fight you and oppose you, is what you should do. That's the end. The end, as it says. Never appeal to the truth unless you're prepared for the anger that comes with disillusionment. Rollo Tomasi. When he said that on Twitter to me, I told him immediately, I was like, man, that's going in the slide, man. That's fantastic. And it's true, man, because nobody wants to hear that Santa is not real. Everyone wants to believe the presents just appear. No one wants to believe that you have to put forth quite a bit of effort and work to make yourself attractive to the mate you believe you desire. Everyone wants to believe that it just so happens, man. You just fell in love magically. Boom. Just fell in love with that guy with all that money. This is how it happened. So, at the end of the day, your friends who don't think like you can remain your friends. You don't need to go out of your way to convert them, but the ones that do want to be converted, the ones that do want to learn more. And when I use the word convert, that really is the best verb I have. I don't want people to think I'm some kind of crazy cult leader. We up here trying to start something new. But that's just the best word I have, and you want to build relationships and borders, want to build relationships and bridges with people. And you don't need to wall them off unnecessarily. That is the end of my speech. Thank you very much for having me. I know this isn't a herping glass. I said, y'all need to get me a new glass. And it was like, I said it to 3 people when they got it. Any questions? Oh man, people standing up. Oh, here we come. Oh man, they're leaving. Okay, cool. Oh, no, that was a line. Okay.
All right, thank you for your speech. That was very inspiring. My question is, how do you navigate a long-term relationship that you're currently in with this new knowledge of the red pill? Some concrete steps to better current relationship, partner, long-term relationship, or wife, whatever.
Okay, great. So just so I'm clear, the question is, how do I have a relationship knowing what I know now?
Yeah, how do you navigate your current relationship with this newfound knowledge? How do you...
I'll give two really quick, succinct pieces of information, and as always, all you guys can catch me, whatever. One, well begun is half done. When I talked about screening her, that was mostly, real. I didn't ask like, oh man, when did your father die? But like, no, I was really screening along and making sure that if I was going to put that time and commitment in, that she was going to be worthy of the energy I put in. So that's step one. Before you even get into a relationship, make sure it's with someone worthwhile. As far as navigating day to day, I really, at the end of the day, I ask myself this question. I go, if she came home today and said, you know what, I gotta talk, or we gotta talk, right? Would I be excited? Or would I be like, oh man, what am I gonna do, right? The point is, if I'm not answering that I'm excited, that means I'm falling off somewhere. Now, I'm not saying that I want to be excited to break up with my girl. Obviously, 6 years is a long time to be holding that excitement, and if that's what I was trying to do, no. The point of bringing that up is that I need to make sure I'm constantly bettering myself so that if I was suddenly cut off, I would be able to go meet a new girl or have a good life or enjoy my freedom. Because look, man, I've been broken up with I've been broken up with money, and being broken up with money is a lot better. And the consequence of making more money is that you become a better human being, more capable of fulfilling that loneliness gap that we try to avoid, or being more desirable for your friends to hang out with. You just, it's not always money. Like making money selling crack, obviously, that's not good. But overall, you should be trying to improve is the point I was making. And if you do that thing, just keep getting better, and you selected a good partner from the jump, really not being afraid to screen them, slow to hire, quick to fire comes to mind, then you should be okay.
Thanks so much for your talk today. I really appreciate it.
Hey.
In your experience with your friends, your tribes, your buddies, do you see yourself kind of putting people in different boxes or tribes, or is it really, really individual? And then is it realistic for all the men in this room, for you to think of a group of guys who are red pill that you really just are completely free about? Or is everybody just kind of mixing together and different?
Question one. Well, I think this is two questions. I'll treat it as two questions anyway. One, do I separate groups up? Absolutely. There's some people you cannot talk to some things about. And if you talk to those things, you're going to be in for a not enjoyable conversation. And to me, it's always, okay, what do I get out of this versus what do I give up? Peace of mind is really effing valuable to me. I don't lay down just for the sake of laying down, but if I got a choice between engaging in a conflict where all I'm going to get out of it is to say, oh, I'm right, or just being happy, I'm going to choose being happy. And more importantly, I go out of my way to avoid certain topics when people try to force me in to conversations, and I'm like, I know where this is going to go. I really don't want to go there, so I'm willing to not go there. The second thing, can I be free just around you guys? I would like to think so. I would like to think that if we run into each other on the street and somebody wants to break down some games, some red pill stuff, whatever, I would like to think that you're free to talk to me and I'm free to talk to you. And that's how I see everyone in this room. That's kind of the idea I would imagine behind this emphasis on anonymity and kind of no one knows where we're at, because people here know that they cannot talk freely about these things. But we're human, we want to communicate. But if we can't communicate, how will we find people to talk freely about? So thank goodness for the internet age and all the things to support our ability to get together and find people of like mind to converse with so we're not so alone. I'll end the question with this. To find people who are in the third standard deviation of exceptionality, it was very difficult, but now you can just hop on the internet, and I can find other people who think like me and who I can discuss things, and I can find other tribes to build with. That doesn't mean I give up the old tribe, that just means I can find a new one to belong to.
Ed, how you doing, man? I love this topic. I work in advertising, and it's a very blue pill kind of world. So, for a guy who's been reading about and studying red pill stuff, what are your thoughts on navigating that kind of a field?
Execute, don't explain. In other words, look, man, if you know something is going to sell or something is going to do well, but you don't want to, trigger the wire that's going to make the bomb go off, you got to improve your skill at being a detonator. In other words, for example, no one wants to talk about how every single alcohol commercial has chicks dancing around or dudes looking cool and powerful, right? But that's some red pill shit. It's like, yo, and here's what'll blow your mind. I don't even know how many people knew this, but it's gonna blow your mind, and now you're gonna be looking for it. You're not allowed to show people consuming alcohol on television. So next time you look at an alcohol commercial, watch. You're not gonna see a guy drink, but you're gonna see some thin, hot chicks with long hair and short skirts, and dudes looking like they just closed $1 million deal in their sleep, smoking cigars and throwing back 1,800 or whatever the alcohol is now. You'll see that. If you know that works, you don't need to, look, you just dropped the other, they know it works too. They just can't say, it's going to sell a lot of liquor, titties. Not only can you can't say that. But this, you present it a different way. In other words, in your particular situation, and I think other people in other situations like this can take this lesson, your verbal acumen in presenting the idea is going to go a long way. And because at the end of the day, that's what matters. One of the things, I don't know if I stressed it enough in the speech, is that it's really not important to get everyone to agree with you. It is important for you to protect yourself and to do the best you can with some of these principles. You don't need to get them to go, you know what, you're right, let's put more titties in it. In fact, we got a girl with 3? Get one with 3. Nah, what you need to do is get them to make an ad that sells. And if they tell you, what we need some rainbows and we need some girls sitting around talking about how they're so hungover, that's not gonna work. And how they're eating pizza, I guess that's the thing, man, where they go to the pizza after the club, which is wild. But you don't need to show that, right? You need to show what works. And look, man, you know what works. So just execute and don't explain. But if you do have to explain it very well.
Ed, at the
I heard what he said up here, that's why I'm laughing.
At the beginning of your presentation, you briefly mentioned the burden of performance that comes with being red-pilled. My question is, what advice do you have for guys on becoming high achievers who weren't high achievers before they were red pill aware?
If you want to become a high achiever at anything, you have to suffer. The thing that's keeping a lot of people, in my opinion, from becoming a high achiever, and I know this because, look, man, that story I told where I was making where my boy was letting me pay $200 a month, not a night, a month, to live there. But what was I doing in my life aside from boxing? I mean, look, man, I was trying to take every little bit of money I had and go down to the bar, drink, holler at ratchet college chicks, man. That was life, right? Well, that's not a life that develops and leads to being a person who Anthony would feel comfortable inviting up to speak to you. What got me to be the person I am now is I said, okay, I have to make a drastic change in my life and start being uncomfortable and taking risks and being uncomfortable. One uncomfortable moment, joining the military at 28, being old as hell. I still ran faster than everyone, right? And then the next uncomfortable moment was going, okay, I mean, I posted this on Instagram, anybody who follows me, where I had my high school grades for math, and I was like, but all the fields that pay well require math. Okay, boom. And now it's like, okay, I know that if I charge more, people will think it's more valuable. I was talking to Tanner and AJ about this a few weeks ago. They're like, the challenge now is, okay, I gotta just deal with that discomfort of charging a lot of money. So all of this comes full circle to me continually dealing with discomfort. If you want to be a high achieving person, if you want to be someone that people find attractive, either romantically or from a business perspective, then you have to demonstrate that you can perform under pressure, and under pressure by definition is uncomfortable. So there's that.
Hey, thanks for the talk, man. So my question that comes in, you kind of had this idea of a kind of like a blue friend group that you don't want to isolate yourself from, and you want to have on the side to alleviate some of that loneliness that might come otherwise. So I've also heard that you kind of become the 3 people you hang around with most. They're going to rub off on you one way or another. So where do you draw that line between dropping the friends you don't want to be with, but keeping the friends around to alleviate the loneliness?
I love when I get a chance to reference how I got sober. So when I decided that me and alcohol were not going to have a good relationship anymore, and it was time to break up, it was really me. It wasn't the alcohol. I said, all right, the first thing I got to do is just get away from everybody. And I had to get away from everybody because I had to make my habit of sobriety strong enough to endure the pressure, implicit and explicit, that would come with me being around people who drink. All my friends still drink. I now hang out with them a lot more than I did when I first stopped drinking. I couldn't hang out with them when I first stopped because I hadn't built up my frame strong enough. Because I tried to stop before, but I was too weak. It wasn't a good habit yet. The habit of sobriety. How does this relate to your question? You're going to spend less time with them. That is just not even a question. And you should be spending less time with your friends anyway if you're about achieving and about something. As you do that, as you're exposing yourself to new information and new people, new ways of thought, your new thoughts will become stronger and more reinforced. This is why I don't think echo chambers are a bad thing. I think bad echo chambers are a bad thing. But if you get yourself around the people who think the way you want to think, the only way to think like them is through reinforcement and repetition, which, kind of comes from an echo chamber, things being bounced off of you. So when you step out of that echo chamber and you decide to go back to some of your blue friends who think a certain way, you are not going to feel anything. You're going to be able to sit there and be yourself. And if a certain topic comes up, like there are things that we can debate till we're blue in the face, because at the end of the day, I do love a discussion, a good, lively argument. But if a friend makes a Trump joke, I look at him like he spoke Chinese, man. Because I'm not interested in having that discussion. I don't talk politics, and that's just that's a habit of not necessarily blue pill people, but people who ascribe to politics. Well, I don't ascribe to them anymore. So when you try to pull me in, my frame is such that I don't even engage in you or engage with you. So that's what you want to do. You want to be able, you want to have faith in your ideas and your worldview so much that another worldview is not going to pollute you. Now, if they're just acting like assholes, you distance yourself from that out of peace of mind. But if you're worried about being influenced, I guarantee you that's not going to be an issue if you really believe what you are learning.
Hello. Yes. Very interesting discussion. Lots of insights. I have a quick question. It's on the topic of forgiveness. About ideological differences. The decision on whether to alienate or have limited association with somebody or people who have hurt you because you may still need them in the future in your life. My question is, where do you draw the line?
So there's a saying, forgive and forget, right? Yeah, well, that's nonsense. Don't believe that. You never forget, but forgiveness is not forgetting. Forgiveness, in my opinion, if I had to give you the most rigid definition I could create on the spot, forgiveness would be the ability to no longer have an emotional reaction, positive or negative, to an event that was executed to you or that you observed, right? That at one point did have an emotional reaction. Now, the sooner you can do that, the sooner you can forgive. In an ideal world, right, I guess this is what detachment aims to achieve, is that you don't feel anything. You just go, oh, that happened. All right, cool, I'm gonna go meditate some more. Peace, right? So the line that we draw between whether we're gonna deal with somebody who you know, for whatever reason may put us in a position to hold a grudge or to hold negative feelings toward them, and whether we forgive them or not, you know, you have to remember that just because you forgive someone doesn't mean you gotta mess with them. That doesn't mean you gotta be friends, you don't have to hang out with them, whatever. All it means is that they no longer occupy space in your emotions. And by extension, very often a space in your mind. You don't have, nowhere in forgiveness, at least how I interpret it, nowhere in forgiveness does say, all right, man, I'm cool. I know you banged my girl and took all my money, but let's go watch the Cowboys. No, that's not how it works. You don't have to be friends with somebody who demonstrates themselves to be of dubious character, because that character that you're exposed to, that's going to degrade your quality of life. It's going to put you at risk. You don't have to take that stupid risk. You don't have to put your physical body in danger, but you do want to relieve your mind and your heart of the burden of thinking about this person. Because really, when you don't forgive somebody, they win. They occupy space in your mind and your heart that for free, really. For real, you don't get anything out of it. In fact, it only takes. You pay for them to occupy a spot in your mind and your heart. So what I'll say to sum up all of that is that you don't have to spend time with anybody just because you forgive them. All that means is that you no longer have an emotional reaction to them, and you can let it go. And then that makes it easier for you to fill your life with love, too. No hippie.
That's all the time we have, gentlemen. Give it up for Ed Latimore.
I'm taking my glass.
George Bruno with the 21 Report in Orlando, Florida. We're talking today with Ed Latimore about his speech and about his book called Not Caring What Other People Think is a Superpower. Welcome to the 21 Report, Ed.
Hey, thank you for having me. How are you enjoying the conference so far?
So far, I think it's fantastic.
I'm having a pretty good time myself. Just getting to meet a lot of guys that I've only interacted with digitally, and then seeing that everyone is as presented on the internet, you know, authentic, their mannerisms and personality, and what they believe and how they speak even is it's very surreal, man. I'm really enjoying it. I'm happy to live in such an era where such a thing like this is possible.
Yeah, so what has your experience been so far? I mean, we've been through just a few of the presentations, and you were just on stage. How did it go for you?
Oh, you know, I really enjoy, I'm probably a weird guy in that most people get nervous when they go on stage. I get more relaxed. I really enjoy being up there and talking in front of people. So my speech went great. What's really surprised me about the conference in general, and I did not know this, there's a whole little coterie of presenter wives that are here as well and will be here. And I think that's fantastic for the conference, because that automatically dispels the image that people gathering for something like the 21 conference are a bunch of lonely men who are angry and bitter at women and who can't get laid, which is like the common counter argument
Yeah.
to anything when the red pill is brought up.
Yeah.
Or those things are thrown around, that loneliness, that bitterness, that anger at women, that misogyny, and then you have guys here who bring their wives, and I've seen 2 guys who brought their children here. I mean, it's really, that has surprised me more than anything. I expected great content. I expected great information. Looking at the list of speakers, they're guys that I follow and I'm fans of already. So I was expecting the presentation and the information to be top notch. I've been most surprised by that element. And another surprising element is really the informal exchanges that happen around dinner or lunch, just talking to people and talking to the speakers and picking brains and seeing like who is who and how many people know about you. That's been really weird, man, too. because people are running up to me going, hey, or I hear my name and I'm like, now I'm used to it. Now I just figure that somebody does it. But the first few times, I'm like, man, there is no way I know who's calling me. So who is this? And my brain's got to adjust. But now, it's you adapt and you have a good time and you try to give as much information as you possibly can to people, because I'm grateful that they came and I hope they're grateful that I'm here.
Yeah. And you've been interacting with a lot of the speakers here, the presenters, and also many of the attendees. And it was interesting that you talked about the congruence between the online personalities and the real personalities. Comment on that. Is there a big difference between how people present themselves online and how they present themselves in real life?
Well, it depends on how you read words, really. And I don't think that many people are adept at kind of picking apart meaning and imagining pattern or imagining voice and seeing the pattern behind the way things are kind of typed out, right? So a lot of people are reading tweets and posts and blog entries as, in their own voice.
Yeah.
So they imagine everyone sounds a certain way.
Yeah.
And I would like to think I'm not that different from it, but I fall victim to it as well.
Yeah.
But also, though, I'll say this too. A lot of these guys I had already interacted with, even more so than I thought when I was looking at the speaker list. A lot of these guys I'd either met in person already at another point, or I had been on their show or heard them talk on a podcast. So I wasn't surprised. So what did surprise me, this is funny, man. He'll see this and I hopefully think it's funny. When I watch Ron Stone comment on Twitter, I'm like, okay, this guy's, is he on my side or not? I don't know. He's kind of funny, but he kind of, has this joking way of speaking. And it's funny because now I hear it and read it retroactively in my memories, his jokes, because now that I've met him and I see his personality and how he cares, I'm like, oh, this guy's just a good humored dude,
Yeah.
If you're just looking at it as text with no context and you're a bit of a hothead, you're like, who is this guy? What is he doing? What is he saying? I'm like, nah, man, it's all fun now.
Sometimes the personalities online are really big, and then like someone had made a comment about one of the speakers, and it was, I thought they were going to be really big and tall, and they're just a little guy. And I said, that's because the personality is very big, and you would think that, and that shows the value of the conference in the sense that the intellectual capital at a conference like this is amazing. There's a lot of great thinkers here, thought leaders. You're around movers and shakers, and you've been invited as a mover and shaker to be amongst other movers and shakers.
Right, which is like a really high honor to be recognized by your peers as a performer, as opposed to, I don't want to say just a regular consumer, but someone who is not on the other side of the equation.
Yeah.
Who is not the one putting, like Anthony said in his opening address, just showing up. I mean, it's certainly loads more skin in the game than just reading it or consuming it online. With that said, like he said, he goes out of his way to make sure every single attendee is anonymous or as anonymous as they like to be. The speakers don't really have that choice.
Right.
Right.
That's right.
So we have to put ourselves out there, and that's really cool that everyone here as well reflects that cavalier spirit. That there's different levels of it, obviously, but we've all more or less, looked at that line in the sand and said, I'm going to be on this side. And that's how it is, and however you feel about it is how you feel about it. Nothing I can do about it.
Tell me about the book that you have. What is the main message that somebody will get from your book?
The main message is that when you need to get your life together, there are certain areas you're going to have to do work on, and those are the areas that we are often most held back because we are worried about how we are perceived by others. We're worried about the outcome rather than the process. We don't focus on what's important, so we never become important. That's what I would like people to get from the book. Their essays around the topics that I thought were most important for me to get under control when I was out of control. So some chapters will be cliched, I guess, like, hard work and discipline. Other ones, guys, I don't think are writing about very often, and certainly not in the vein of self-improvement. I have a whole chapter on relationships and changing your paradigm, or a whole chapter on my sobriety and how it affected my perception and usage of my limited time on this planet. These were all areas that I think I had a deficient view and a deficient perspective on that was really keeping me a mediocre human. And once I got them under control, because really, like, I got to take you back just a moment so you know that each essay, the initial idea was motivated by a tweet of mine. I went and collected all of my tweets, and then I wrote a supplementary essay followed by a piece of actionable advice. Well, my Twitter account is really, it's just a reflection of my thoughts. And people ask all the time, how do I tweet this or how do I come up with that? I'm like, well, all right, seriously, I'm just drawing from my life and what I've learned, especially over the past 6 years. So this book, to me, it's a collection of the areas where I felt I needed to improve, where I think everyone, if they work on themselves in those areas and they change how they see things and they go and how they go about doing things, they'll experience a big change.
Male or female, it's written for anybody.
It's written for anybody, though I do have a disclaimer in the front of the book that says, while the advice in this book is for everybody, I think everyone can benefit from it. You have to understand that I'm a man and therefore I write in a certain way. I don't go out of my way to use gender neutral pronouns or anything like that.
Yeah.
So that's the other cool thing. I not that I'm writing anything outrageous, but what I'm writing is true, and we live in these times where what is true to you can be considered outrageous to someone else.
Now, who would your main audience be? Who is going to respond most positively to your message?
A person who feels like they can't make progress, but they really want to. Because I don't believe that some people are lost causes. It certainly seems that way. And in application, I think we do reach a point where progress is effectively no longer an option. For example, if you ended up in prison. But other than that, if you're free and you have your time, you can do things.
Yes.
You can improve. And so my book is for that person. For that person who's going, okay, I'm sitting here and I'm stuck and I can't get forward. I can't make more money. I'm out of shape. I have these horrible habits. I can't get better at anything. So how do I do it? How do I fix me? And that's who the book is for.
So let's say that person is watching this broadcast right now. Speak to the one person out there right now who needs your message, what would you tell him today about moving forward, about getting unstuck?
I would say that you can change anything in 2 years' time. Where you are at right now is not where you are destined to be. If you want to be in a better place, you can get there, but it will take work, and it will take a fundamental shift in how you relate to the world. You're going to have to care about process over outcome. You're going to have to care more about yourself instead of what other people think, because other people are not going to have your best interests at heart. They may say they do, but what they have at heart is really their best interest, and it's sometimes easy to disguise that as caring for you. But in reality, they want you to do, what's the old saying? They want you to do well, but not better than them. I think many people encounter that resistance, and it's always a subtle resistance. It's never overt. A subtle resistance when they try to improve. You get a lot of people who enable and don't even know they're enabling your destruction or self-destruction. So for you out there who wants to get better, who was wondering why you should care about this book and why do you think it would make a difference in your life to you, I say that right now the one thing holding you back is almost certainly the fact that you are more worried about how you appear to others than how you feel about yourself.
So let's say there's a person who's watching this at night. He goes to sleep. What is the one thing that he needs to do when he wakes up tomorrow morning?
He practically wake up earlier. You cannot discount the power of early rising, and it's not even about, I'm going to get up and have more time in the day. No, there is because you should go to bed at a time that accounts for how long you've been awake. So you still get your 6 or 8 or however many hours of sleep you need. No, you get up early so you can have an earlier start on the day. Psychologically, it feels better when the clock strikes 8 and you've already done more than most people are going to do for 8 to 10 hours.
That is powerful. Did you hear that? Get up earlier. I said, what is the one thing they can do when they get up? He said, get up earlier. That is so powerful. And it's something that is within everybody's ability to do.
I rarely meet the person who can't even spare an extra 30 minutes to wake up earlier. And whatever you do with that 30 minutes, think about that. That's 30 minutes. If you did that every day, let's just pretend you did it every day. That's 30 minutes over 365 days in the year. That's 730 days. I do it right? Yeah, 730 days that you wake up 30 minutes earlier, which gives you an extra 365 hours, right? Mm-hmm. Or 300. Then that math was not right. But the point is that you get more time.
You're buying time that you already have.
Yeah. You get a little more time. I was thinking about, that's right, I was thinking about 2 years, so that was correct.
Yeah.
So yeah. So if you did that for 2 years, you would make a really huge difference. Think about it. I had a class for 16 weeks that was 1 hour twice a week. So I'm getting 32 hours of instruction, and I'll walk away with 4 college credits. And because of what I studied, I would like to say it was useful and relevant if I decided to go into the field of physics, but at this point in time, I don't think I will. The point is that that's 32 hours. That's all it took for me. Mm-hmm. You're going to gain back if you wake up 30 minutes, mm-hmm. every morning, 30 minutes earlier every morning for 2 years. You're going to gain back 365, some odd hours. Mm. And imagine what you could do with that.
Yeah.
But people don't have the patience, because that is going to be slow, gradual, but hopefully cumulative and exponential eventually, or eventually exponential change. But you gotta start out when you're with your curve being almost horizontal, right? Almost not changing at all. But eventually it gets steeper and steeper, and all of a sudden, huge progress. And if people take anything away from me, I want them to take away from me that I am a living, breathing example of that principle at work in many aspects of my life.
You know, a lot of people would interview you about your background in boxing, your educational and academic background in physics. I know nothing about physics, I know nothing about boxing, so I can't appeal and I can't ask intelligent questions about that. And I know there's a lot of lessons that can come from those areas. And I feel that what you gave just in the past 15 minutes was such practical advice. Somebody listening to this on their iPhone or watching it on their computer or listening to it on their way to work, I think you gave them some practical information and inspiration that it's actionable. Everyone can do what you just said. You don't have to be an elite athlete. You don't have to be an elite academician to make this happen. You just said, get up earlier.
That's it.
And everyone can do that.
You can do it, and hopefully you use that time to do more than play on Facebook. But
yeah.
Because right, if you get up earlier to play on Facebook, that does not help.
Yeah.
You get up earlier to find time, hopefully, to put towards something that you consider important and you know will make a difference in your standard of living and your quality of life.
Mm-hmm. People can find you as Ed Latimore on Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
They can find you on your website, edlatimore.com. Where can they find your book?
On Amazon. I sell it right on Amazon. And if you really want to download a PDF instead of a Kindle, right on my website, I sell the PDF.
I want to hear you say the title of this book to that man out there.
Not caring what other people think is a superpower. Insights from a heavyweight boxer.
There you have it, folks. Conversation with Ed Latimore. This is George Bruno from Orlando, Florida, and the 21 Report.